When you're ready.
The use of animal research can be found within many areas of the economy. Millions of animals are used each year to test the clinical safety of products. Although animal testing is more comparable to human cells than any other method, animal testing should not be used because of its failure rate and high cost. Today I'll be discussing failure rate, the alternatives, and the human health hazards. Success rate of animal testing. There is a scientific connection between animals and humans that give them purpose in research. In mice, almost all of its gene functions are shared with humans. Humans have the same organ systems and develop the same way from sperm and egg. That means that mice will develop diseases in the same way as humans. Animal research can even be as small as a unicellular eukaryote tetrahedron. This small eukaryote has cilia that are identical to the cilia in the human lung. This means that they can be used to research conditions in the human lung. Although the biological connection between certain animals and humans is strong, as we studied, most discoveries from research fail to lead to human treatments. A study done by the British Medical Journal found that animal research barely makes it into clinical use. Fewer than 10% of the promising discoveries actually make it into clinical use within 20 years. This is concerning because there's a large amount of money being used in this research. It's estimated that the National Institute of Health spends $14.5 billion from taxpayers' money alone on animal research each year. With this large amount of wealth invested, the success rate for animal research is extremely low, and too much money is being wasted. Another study done found that $28 billion were being spent in the US each year on animal testing that could not be reproduced. The data collected in these studies becomes useless, and the money invested was wasted. While the money is being used to improve the reproducibility rate of these studies, it is ineffective in producing clinical results. The billions of dollars used without producing clinical results show how it is not economically viable. Non-animal research options. There are cost-efficient non-animal testing methods. Animal testing methods take years to conduct and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions per substance. Different options for these tests can be done through computer modeling techniques or cell-based automation through robotics. A study done by the Humane Society International calculated study costs for cell toxicity treatments of animal testing and in vitro testing. In vitro tests are a type of robotic cell study. When studying gene toxicity tests, the cost for animal testing were $30,000, $22,000, and $30,000, while in vitro testing was $20,000, $8,000, and $11,000. The average cost for animal testing was $15,000 more than in vitro. In vitro testing was consistently less expensive, and this data shows how animal testing is inferior to the alternative non-animal methods due to the cost, and is not effective to use methods that are substantially more expensive. The alternative testing methods readily available give evidence as to why animal testing should no longer be used. The effectiveness of the alternatives. While animals do have a strong connection to human health, researching this is also possible with other methods. A study done by Cruelty Free International found that non-animal methods performed actually better than animal tests. Skin allergy reactions were tested and predicted by guinea pigs 72% of the time, while cell-based testing predicted the reactions 85% of the time. The same study found that rabbits predicted skin irritability 60% of the time, while human cell tests predicted the correct results 93% of the time. This data shows that the non-animal methods are reliable and is helpful to support the concept of stopping the use of animal research. Hazardous conditions for lab workers. Animal research is dangerous to human health, and in the US there's an estimated 40,000 to 125,000 people that are exposed to laboratory animals. The research conducted in these facilities is hazardous because of the packed rooms and chemicals used. Gases used in the laboratories can cause dizziness, nausea, headaches, and other effects on laboratory workers. Laboratory-acquired infections are a big hazard that affect the workers. It is estimated that there are 45 cases of zoonotic disease, which is harmful germs spread to humans by animals, per 10,000 workers. These hazardous conditions are important to take into consideration for the economics of animal testing, because companies that employ workers who are exposed to these hazards will have to pay large amounts of money in medical bills. Non-alternative animal testing methods do not have these hazards. which means that they will overall have a lower cost. In conclusion, animal research options or animal research discovery barely makes it into the clinical use stage, and the success rate is too low with its high costs. A large amount of money is being spent on research that is not reproducible and is wasted. The non-animal alternative methods have a consistently lower cost and also less hazardous conditions for the workers. These are the reasons why animal research should not be used.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. How valid and reliable are the sources you used? How do you know? And which sources didn't work?
The sources I use in my research were reliable. I know this because the information that I used from each source came from an organization and cited back to specific studies done by researchers. An example of a valid source I used was a study about costs of animal research done by Humane Society International. A source that didn't work for me was one that had information on the costs of animal research, but the study was not cited, so I could not use it.
Okay. Well, thank you. If you had more time, what additional research would you conduct related to this issue?
If I had more time, I would have done more research on in vitro testing. I talked about this alternative to animal research in my presentation, but if I had more time, I would have covered more about this. Including more research on this would have made my argument stronger by giving more of an explanation of how this works and why in vitro will be better than animal research, especially in the future.